Hello, Tom. Hi. It's so great to have you again at the ACCA Accounting for the Future conference. When you last joined us in 2019, you had just started your journey with IAASB. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, the past 2 years definitely feel quite a bit longer than usual due to the pandemic. So much has happened and so much has changed. And I was revisiting the interview that we did with you back then, and what came through very clearly for me was your strong desire to build innovation and agility into our standard setting process, while of course maintaining the robustness and accountability that is absolutely expected of our board. Now, if you were to write your own report card today, Tom, 2 years down the road with the pandemic thrown in, what would that report card say about how much you have achieved with the board as the chair?
Chun, it's great to be back here, and thanks to the ACCA for hosting me. Yes, it's been quite a 2 years, and I probably wouldn't have predicted those 2 years when we spoke last to this conference. So it's definitely been an interesting time. I have to think this is a little bit of a trick question, as someone said in standards for the audit profession, you're not supposed to assess yourself. And I've learned that right now. And I probably would be a hard grader. But in many ways, I think we've been helped by having a clear strategy. And you've touched on what we've been trying to do. And we set a strategy right after the conference last time. That we were going to make sure that everything we do is in the lens of the public interest. And really to effect it, we had three strategic objectives. One is to really focus on the right issues that are most impactful for audit quality and assurance quality. And secondly was adopt a more agile and innovative approach to standard setting, really with the idea that the world is moving faster. Standard setters have to move in tandem with the world. And thirdly, that we wanted a much more intense stakeholder relationship and not expect people to meet us where we wanted them to be met, but meet people where they were willing and able to meet us. And because our process, the quality of our standards, our body of work really benefits from all of that and gains legitimacy from that. So in many ways, I want to say I'm really pleased with the momentum we've generated on all fronts, despite the COVID pandemic. But there's always more work to be done. And let me just give you some examples of why I'm happy about the direction of travel, but the need not to be complacent. So during my term, and thankfully because of the work of others, we've completed a whole set of standards. We completed ISO 315, the risk assessment standards. I think a groundbreaking suite of quality management standards. We're about to complete group audits as well at our December meeting. Taken together with the work that had done previously, that really forms a strong foundation for audit quality. What it also allowed us to do by finishing that, go on to issues that are of real importance today to the profession. And that means we were able to turn our efforts to fraud, going concern, complexity, which includes the issue of audits for LCEs, and also start to begin dealing with audit evidence, which has issues of technology involved and sustainability. So now we're able to work on that. We've done all of this by being committed to move more agilely too. And so one example is crisis pandemic hit, and we put out a series of staff alerts to be helpful to people at applying our standards to the set of circumstances now facing the global economy and the audit profession. Other ways that we could think about it is that we've also been able to speed through the delivery of the LCE standard, less complex entities standard that's out for consultation, by using a reference group. We've now adopted a framework for activities that is driving a more evidence-based approach to standard setting as we take on fraud and going concern. So in many ways, those are examples of how we were achieving our work. And we were able to move seamlessly to a digital environment. So lots to be proud of. it's always good to take stock, but it's also know that the work, the grade would be incomplete because we have to keep moving.
That's amazing, Tom, and I definitely concur. As a member on the board myself, I think the progress we have made, the amount of work we have done, and in spite of the disruption of the pandemic, just bear witness to the innovation and agility that you spoke about. So that's all brilliant. So Tom, you mentioned LCE, less complex entity, a few times, and there are a lot of things on IAASB's agenda that our stakeholders are watching very closely, but I think our proposed standard for less complex entities is probably the one that is top of mind for many people right now. So let's dive into it a little bit. Can you share with us why is this project important and what are we trying to achieve?
So it's important because LCEs, I think this is a little bit of our language for SMEs in this world, because as you know, some SMEs are complex, and we really want to focus on the issue of complexity rather than size. But there's a good overlap, and SMEs are an important engine of the marketplace. I think at most jurisdictions they comprise 90 to 95% of all companies that operate, and are often where the greatest growth occurs. And what we saw over time is two things: that our standards were getting more detailed and complex to implement. And that really is a reflection of the economy for many companies is just more complex, and there's more subject to regulatory scrutiny, and there's greater desire for guidance and detailed requirements. And so that's not necessarily a bad thing, but there is this whole other part of the economy that remains in the world of the less complex. And we saw jurisdictions developing their own standards in this place. And from my standpoint, that would be really unfortunate, because we didn't develop a set of audit assurance standards over the last 40 plus years to then have fragmentation for 90% of the market out there. And if you really believe that a profession should be united by high quality global standards, then we needed to do something. And so that gave us the need to act there. And to do so, we've set some real principles in place that it should be a high quality standard that results in a high quality audit opinion that is a reasonable assurance opinion that is very closely tied to ICES. And so, I've heard some commentary in the early consultation process, and indeed we want a broad consultation to occur. We're now running a consultation on this, and we need everyone to provide their input. But one thing that we hear early on is that there's not enough difference in terms of the requirements between the full ICES and ICES LCEs, and that's concerned. Well, we're actually sort of non-apologetic about that right now, because what we've tried to do is remove the guidance and the requirements that weren't relevant for the certain nature and circumstances of an LCE audit. But to the extent that the requirements are relevant, we want them to be very closely tied to ICES. Only in that way will there be a high quality audit. And in many instances, your LCEs of today become the publicly listed companies of tomorrow. And so, from my standpoint, the emphasis on quality, not less work, but focusing auditors on the right work is really important. So in this way, we're creating a solution that could be used across borders that responds to needs, but will provide a high quality audit. Now, we don't know if we've gotten everything right. That's the reason for the consultation. We need your membership to participate, but that is what drives our motivations on LCEs.
Thank you, Tom. And the feedback that you mentioned is one that I've heard as well. So it's great that you're providing that clarification. But of course, as always, we welcome all kind of feedback into the deliberation process.